And welcome back to Tesseract Talk. I'm Hanon, and as always, I'll be joined by Ethan. How's it going, Ethan?
Dude, it's a great day. It's warm outside, springtime's coming around,
Yeah.
and I'm super excited to talk about the first Avenger today.
Captain America, the
Dude,
first
heck
Avenger.
yeah.
Yeah.
The first
I'm
one.
I'm really excited to see about our thoughts on this movie. I
Okay.
think as we are gearing in towards the Avengers big episode for us here at Tesseract Talk.
I know, it's a big one.
We haven't really gone over what we do here in a long time,
Yeah.
so let's run through that. So if you're new, I'm Hannon. This is Ethan, as
I'm
we said.
Ethan.
But we go through every single MCU movie in release order, and we rank them on a list. Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds about
is that
right.
what we do here?
I think that is what we do here for the time being.
We talk about the movie. We rank them on the list based off of what we thought about the movie, how it ties into the MCU as a whole, and along the
Mm-hmm.
way we talk about how it ties into the MCU movie as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
if it's important, if some fun little Easter eggs, which we'll point out in this movie
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
big Easter egg guy.
And then we also have a new segment where we do our infinity odds, where we go
Yeah.
over under on some of the facts about the upcoming movie. So it's a fun ride. We're glad you're here.
Yeah.
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 So let's get into Captain America: The First Avenger.
Dude, let's.
In 2011, you said that it was,
2 months after Thor,
which is crazy.
which is really, really weird because you imagine going into seeing Thor in every part of the magical fantasy world that Thor is to go straight to like a nitty gritty, like boots on the ground, like 1940s,
Yeah.
like Captain America film.
But they tie in really well in this movie, and we can talk about that later. So
Yeah.
I was pleased to see some of the way that it ties in.
Mhm.
Directed by Joe Johnston,
Hmm.
and still Paramount. We're still rocking with the Paramount here.
Yeah, and looking at the numbers for this movie, Thor had a slightly bigger budget of about 10, 20 million more,
That makes sense.
but Thor outperformed Captain America in the box office. Yeah,
Thor outperformed
Captain America.
even though it had a bigger budget.
Thor had a bigger budget and outperformed.
Okay.
Which I mean,
Interesting.
it's interesting.
That is really because both of these characters are really big.
Now
just
they are.
figures too.
But in 2011, were they? Is the question.
Captain America?
I mean, Captain America, yes,
He's
was
iconic.
known, but also I guess more people knew of Thor just from a mythology basis.
I guess so.
Right.
That's interesting.
And I guess that one it can come across as more family friendly, I guess, than like
Maybe.
Hitler and
Yeah.
Hydra.
Nazis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that
it
makes
depends.
sense. That makes sense. Okay, so we open with not with Captain America.
No.
Not even in 1940. We open in the Arctic Ocean,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where they brought in people to look at this ship
Yeah.
this plane that crashed.
Yeah. This like.
But
Yeah.
my question for you is, who do you think they called in? Because we know that they're from Washington.
Yeah.
Do you think they called in Shield?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you go straight to Shield and Nick Fury for this kind of thing. Like you
Mm.
found this ancient, like not ancient, but this like crash wreckage or something that you
Yeah.
know Shield would have on record as like, yeah, we lost this guy in the ocean and around this area, right? And then that can, I would think you could cross reference that and be like, we need to get over there,
Yeah.
you know?
Do you think they called in Washington and Washington sent Shield knowing what's going on, or do you think they just straight up called Shield?
I'm unsure. I'm wondering why this. You think this is significant?
I think it just to because going into Avengers, Shield is
Mhm.
like a pretty prevalent force to be
Yeah.
reckoned with. And I'm just kind of tracking on Shield's like whereabouts throughout the
Mm.
entire MCU because we just saw them in New Mexico with Thor.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting to see if following the through line.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we see the wreckage, and then we jump also not to Captain America, but to I'm not gonna pronounce this right. Tornsberg.
Tornsberg in Norway.
Tornsberg, Norway.
Yeah, which is actually the same, the same like Nordic village we see in Thor,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also I can't tell you where it is, but it's also an Endgame.
Is it interesting?
I haven't seen that movie in ages. I wouldn't be able to
That
tell you
could
what part it
be
is, but
where New Asgard might be,
maybe,
maybe. That'd be
maybe it is an
interesting.
Endgame.
Yeah.
That village is the same village as an Endgame. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. But we see we're introduced of the villain before we are even
The hero.
the hero, which is
Yeah.
really interesting, and I really like that.
I do like that. Yeah.
That way we get sort of a frame of reference for the big bad Red Skull.
Yeah. Red Skull.
Johann Schmidt.
Johann Schmidt.
Which, oh my gosh, he's such a scary villain.
He's phenomenal in this movie.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Where we see him ransack this village with this poor old guy.
Yeah. He's just trying to do his job.
He's doing his job. But he talked about the Tesseract and hiding it and that sort of thing. Where we coming off of just seeing Thor, I really connected the dots this time, making sense of why it would be in Norway because it was a part of Odin's throne room, which Johann even talks about, which he mentions the World Tree.
Yggdrasil.
Yeah, so I'm really enjoying, and that happens a lot in this movie where you don't have to be a Marvel fan to watch this movie at all.
No, not at all.
Where as later down the line, it might become necessary to watch Marvel movies.
Yeah.
But in this one, you don't have to watch the Marvel movies. But if you do, you can really tie in some other references.
I think that's part of the joy of Phase 1, right? Is that you're having all these origin stories, but then you get to this big, like, Avengers is like the gift for going back and watching how all of them got there.
Yeah.
Right? And so Avengers is really like the gift to the culmination of all of those things.
Yeah.
And so I think that's like I said, that's the joy of Phase 1, being that you can see, there's not like all these prequels you have to go watch first and to understand everything. They're all origin stories and they're pretty low to the ground.
Yeah.
Thor's the most ambitious one they've had in Phase 1, I think, with just with the world building and stuff like that, and the magic and sorcery, whatever you want to call it. But I think Captain America is probably one of the easiest ones to watch without being a Marvel fan.
Yeah, because people know World War II.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty like common knowledge.
And it's not a stretch of the imagination to say, oh yeah, they had this secret division dedicated to finding all these myths and legendary artifacts, which was true. Like they were very convinced about this thing. And even like there's a little nod because this is directed by Joe Johnston, right? Whenever Schmidt says that the Fuhrer was looking for something in the desert, that's really funny because Joe Johnston worked on Raiders of the Lost Ark.
That's what I thought when I heard that.
Yeah, he worked on the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that's like a little funny, little tidbit there. Which I mean, it's something that he actually did go and look for.
Yeah,
like he was convinced that there was some like power that you could harness, like the Fountain of Youth and stuff like that. So
it's just really cool, and it really brings in an audience to the MCU that might not be so familiar with the comics beforehand. And this movie in particular ties in Iron Man with Stark and Thor with the Tesseract.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure about Hulk. I'm trying to
It doesn't really tie Hulk in because Hulk was done by Sony at that point in time because Marvel didn't have the rights to Hulk during this period of time because they sold it. Remember? So they don't really have the ability to really like touch on it like super specifically in the ways that they can like Iron Man and stuff like that.
Sure.
Which really kind of puts looking back on it, like Marvel is like the CEO of making something out of nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Like they developed these characters that no one really knew or cared about because they sold all their big hitters. And now they've kind of taken these other not ragtag, but at the time ragtag characters to, give them something. Because back in 2011, the team wasn't the Avengers. It was the X-Men. Yeah, right? Like you had the X-Men and that was your like Justice League essentially. Yeah. But no, Captain America does a really good job of like making sense and being plausible. Yeah. Right? Like it builds on like actual historical events and puts like a new like little fictitious twist on it, which makes it a really cool and interesting movie to watch.
Yeah. I'm curious as we go through this movie to see what we think about some of these moments. Including the introduction to Steve Rogers.
Yep, Steve Rogers.
Skinny Steve.
Skinny kid from Brooklyn.
Yeah. Where the CGI we can talk about that for a little bit. Um, when I first saw Captain America: First Avenger, I I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think they did a really good job for 2011
Yeah.
on making Chris Evans look skinny.
See, honestly, I was watching this movie and I saw him like come out of like the actual chamber thing,
Hmm.
and I was like, wait, how did they do that? And it didn't even cross my mind that it was all CGI.
Man,
Which like that could be me just being ignorant, which it probably is.
maybe.
But that's also really cool to see that they could do that in 2011. Like it's
Yeah.
awesome.
We really watched the progression of the CGI elements in at least Marvel movies, if
Oh
not
yeah.
cinema, throughout
Oh
these
oh
these past
yeah.
5 episodes.
Yeah, 5 episodes. This is
Yeah.
yeah. Oh.
Um, and then we see another iconic character, Bucky Barnes,
Bucky Barnes. Yep.
Sebastian Stan.
Sebastian Stan.
Um,
Great actor.
yeah, he was in. He was nominated for an Oscar this year. Good for
Really good
Sebastian.
for Sebastian.
I don't think he won, but
That's
anyway,
alright.
a little fun. Our comic first appearance is that he was in Captain America #1 in 1941,
Yeah.
alongside his best bud Steve Rogers.
Yeah, which is kind of cool because like all the kids later on have like the #1 actual like
Hmm.
issue
Yeah.
in as they're like running through the street and stuff. And it's also like in Iron Man 2,
Mm.
in like Howard Stark's possessions that Tony goes through, there's a Captain America 1 in there.
Wow.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that's really interesting that like Howard plays into this.
Oh yeah,
So well.
a lot more than you think he would.
Yeah, for sure. And if not even the entire cinematic universe, Howard Stark is, I think, behind a lot of.
The unsung hero.
Is Howard Stark the unsung hero of the MCU? I mean, maybe because
I mean, if you think about it, he makes the first. He has the vibranium to make the first shield.
yeah,
He saves Tony's life retroactively by designing an element that he just couldn't create.
yeah,
Right? Like he's doing a lot of these things that, and he's also like leading these missions too. Like he's not
Mhm.
like just sitting in his office just doing stuff.
yeah.
Like he flies the plane later in the movie, and if you watch Agent Carter, he does tons of stuff in that movie too.
Yeah, he's a big deal, and
Yeah.
even when later on when we track like in Ant-Man, we see Howard Stark as with Hank Pym in I think the 70s or the 60s or around
Something
there,
like
80s
that.
maybe, where like Shield is kind of going, and he's still there along with Peggy. So I think there's a foundation of these background characters that carry on through even now in
Yeah.
2025. We're still seeing the effects of Howard Stark, which is
Yeah.
really cool. Speaking of, they go to the World Expo.
Which is just the World's Fair, but they
Yeah.
just can't call it that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
and I was like, the World Exposition is just the World's
Which
Fair.
I'm really curious on, like, because we had the Stark Expo,
Yeah.
and Stark is at Howard Stark is at the World Expo, and do you think there's some tie-in with that? Like, do you think?
I think that he goes to like this World's Expo, and then probably after that one decides, I can do something by myself.
Yeah,
Right? He kind of has that, like, I pretty much am the whole World's Expo, so why don't
Mhm.
I just do my own thing
Yeah,
and make more money off of it?
yeah.
You know, that kind of process.
At the World Expo, we see some very fun Easter eggs. Do
Yeah.
you wanna?
So there's a big tube that like has a person in it, and it's actually the android, which was the like artificial Human Torch.
Mm.
And I'm pretty sure inside of the tube is Chris Evans wearing
What?
it. Yeah, which nods to him being Human Torch before this in the old Fantastic Four movie,
Mm.
which I think is really funny.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Which just also come back in the MCU.
I know, which is going full 360.
Yeah.
And I would love to see that. Well, I guess they won't. But if Steve Rogers and Johnny Storm, right?
Mhm.
We're to interact. I would like there to be like some funny dialogue.
Yeah.
But knowing how things are going, we probably won't get that.
Yeah.
Which is sad. But we'd like to see this little like callback here, which is really
Yeah.
funny.
But Chris Evans, Johnny Storm, also is in the MCU now too, with Deadpool Wolverine.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
This could get
Oh, I
pretty
completely
crazy.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So
Okay.
the future of Chris Evans lives on in the MCU.
Lives on.
But at the World
So
Expo,
doesn't he die in
yeah,
Deadpool
he
Wolverine?
does.
So I don't think it is
He
continuing on.
his memory lives
His
on.
memory lives. Yeah, let's set it straight. He's gone. He's dead. That is out.
In the Stark Expo, when Howard is presenting this new flying car,
Yeah.
I could not help but think about the first introduction of the Tesla Cybertruck, when it's bulletproof, and then he
throws a rock at her or
or
something, right?
like some ball or something, and it
Yeah.
cracks. And in this one, he's like, flying car, and then it totally falls apart.
I told you it'd be in the next few years.
Yeah, I think the parallels are crazy.
Yeah, I think that's really funny. And this movie, this is gonna sound really weird, but at some point in this movie, it felt like a Despicable Me movie to me.
Wait, hold on. Captain America, the first Avenger, feels like a Despicable Me movie.
Okay, because hear me out. You have the goofy flying car that ends up not working, and later in the movie, you see like the German guy running away from Steve Rogers to jump into the water into some like super secret submarine that just happened to be there. That is just some new technology Stark couldn't understand.
What makes that a Despicable Me movie?
I guess it feels like a spy movie at that point. It feels like one of like the wacky cartoony spy movies.
When you think of spy movie, you think of Despicable Me.
Is that crazy to say?
No, you can have your own opinions.
He worked for a secret organization?
You can have your own opinions.
All right, whatever.
So Steve Rogers, we're really like kind of getting attached to, and he's trying all these times he wants to serve his country. We learn that his dad died in service. His mom also died in service as a nurse, and he also wants to risk his life for the future of his country.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I mean, for the time period, it fits, right?
Yeah.
That during that time, like over the last like century or even two, you could say, there's always been like some global conflict going on that people have been putting their lives to. And we're kind of in a place now where we're in like the middle of like an era, right? Like we don't have any great war to go and fight in, or like a Great Depression or anything like that. We're like it's pretty easy. Like we kind of got it.
We did have COVID.
That was 2 years.
And
how long was World War II?
Don't speak too soon, Ethan.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I think that we're really becoming attached to Steve Rogers in the early stages of this movie to really know why he was chosen to be Captain America.
Boy, is he small, but his heart sure is big.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. And this he gets thrown out of the theater, and we get the iconic line of "I could do this all day," and I think that's probably one of my favorite quotes.
I think it is for sure. I think that really does describe Steve's character in like a nutshell.
For sure. He is, for all my Harry Potter friends, I think he is for sure, Gryffindor. He is courageous. He stands up for the little guy.
I did not think you'd bring that into this. So that's the last.
You know I could.
Into everything.
I think he's standing up for people that he doesn't even know. And that carries out the entire movie, which is a really noble thing to do. And really, I think... makes me care about this character a lot more than some of the other characters that we've seen in the MCU. You know, for Bruce Banner, we see like some of the hardships that he's going through, but I don't think I care about Bruce Banner the way I care about Captain
well, I mean, yeah, like we had this underdog idea
for sure
for Captain America, and I think that it's really played out well in this movie in the first half or first chunk, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That he's really, they build him up in a way that we can see that he's just super unlucky, and we really want something to go right for him.
Yeah.
But then after he gets beat up in the gets beaten up in the back of the theater, Bucky comes and bails him out.
Yeah.
And they go to the World Expo, which we already talked about.
Yeah.
And
we also see him pick up a trash can lid.
Oh, as a shield.
As a shield, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're jumping around a little bit.
Yeah.
But he tries one last time to get in, and he's picked up by Erskine, Dr. Erskine.
I'm glad you know people's names.
Yeah.
I do not.
um, and he's selected. He goes to the military base. I
It's
guess
no, it has a name.
Lehigh, something like that.
It's something with an L. It
I
starts
think
with an L.
I think it's Lehigh.
And that shows up in Miss Marvel actually.
Oh,
That's where they have like the Avenger Con or whatever. It's at
you're
that same
right.
spot.
Yeah, and it also shows up in Captain America, Winter Soldier. And they go back there too.
Okay.
So it's a reoccurring
Yeah.
item or
And
point of location.
I was gonna say the Colonel in this movie is one of my favorite characters in this movie.
He's
He is
awesome.
so funny.
He's awesome.
I think he is so funny.
Yeah.
He has so many good one-liners and quips that throughout this whole movie, honestly, I did not remember this movie being this funny.
It's really good.
This is a funny movie.
It's really funny.
I know it almost has that like time period humor,
Mm-hmm.
but in a way that it's not annoying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's actually funny.
Yeah. When we meet Peggy Carter,
Yeah.
another iconic character throughout a lot of Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Also
movies.
seen as Captain Carter.
Yeah, true. And then we see this iconic scene of Steve jumping on the grenade after he's being like ridiculed and things, and the Colonel says, so he jumps on the grenade. He like sacrifices himself for everybody, not knowing that it's a dud or I think I'm trying to think of what they call it, like a fake or something.
Yeah, a decoy.
Yeah.
Like that.
And the Colonel says he's still skinny.
Yeah, I like how he just says what the soldier really needs is guts, and he chucks the grenade, and Steve jumps on it, and he's like, he's still skinny.
He's
whatever."
still skinny. He's still skinny.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of likable characters in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Including the Colonel. And the Colonel's seen, I think, as a like pretty neutral character. Like we don't love him the way we do Steve or Peggy or something.
Because he seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Like he's a reasonable guy. Like he plays by the rules for the most part, and he's like, this is just he's a cold hard facts guy.
Yeah.
He's a reality person. Like I think it's evident throughout the movie.
Yeah. What he says makes sense. Like why would you choose the skinny guy to be the super soldier?
Yeah.
When you have these other knuckleheads being like soldiers.
Yeah.
I think the Colonel is really explaining to the audience why Steve.
Yeah. And they do it in a really like subtle way that kind of just delivers the message, and you kind of understand it the movie.
Yeah, it was very well slid in there.
Yeah.
Especially with the Colonel as a character, I think they used them really well. So he gets chosen, and we meet Erskine. We had that iconic scene, and I don't know about iconic, but it's a scene where it's Steve and Erskine sitting down having a drink the day before, and I think there's so much like character building where we get to know Erskine and then we lose him pretty soon afterward. Who gets to through this scene, there's a bond between Erskine and Steve, an appreciation of Steve giving Erskine giving Steve a chance. And I think I don't know. I really like the heart in this movie as well.
And it's really funny when he takes both cups of alcohol for himself.
Yeah.
That's I was
like, wait, you have a procedure tomorrow. You can't have this. I'll take both of them.
But I don't. Yeah, that's the part I thought you were gonna get at.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
hilarious.
No, but yeah, I do like that scene a lot. It shows that there's like humanity in him, right?
Yeah.
On both sides of the table. Because we see that with Schmidt, it's like almost like a direct like opposites here, right? And it makes this conversation makes a lot more sense, and Schmidt as a character makes it have a lot more sense that Steve uses a shield, right? Because they're not creating this guy to be like the ultimate like killmonger, right? They're making him to protect people, and I think him having a shield as his primary weapon really communicates that and conveys that to the movie.
the Captain America shield is not a shield of attack.
Yeah,
It's a defensive.
It's protective.
Yeah, it's defensive for like he says this throughout the movie. He doesn't like bullies, but he doesn't want to be the bully. He's not the bully. He's not going to be the bully.
When Schmidt gets his power, he becomes the bully.
Yeah.
Right, and so this is like it's the positive and negatives here, right?
Yeah.
It's stoppable force, movable object, right? And these two enhanced people that have supernatural abilities now, and one decided to be aggressive with it, and the other decided to be protective.
Yeah, it's a really cool moment.
Yeah.
Where the next leading into the day of the procedure, we see that we know that Hydra has a man on the inside who's finding Erskine to, I guess, take him out, or at least see if Erskine has been successful in making another super soldier serum.
Yeah.
But he's already, like, Hydra has already infiltrated the government, which becomes a big deal in later.
Oh yeah.
In later.
Even
MCU
in this
movies.
movie.
So in 1941, or around there at least, we find that Hydra has already infiltrated. Does that mean they have been infiltrated since then? Do you think?
I mean, I would assume so. I mean, because we see Hydra pop back up in the government in this movie, right? Brave New World. And so that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Hydra's always been active. Like, they've never been fully, like, stomped out. Even in Civil War, like, Hydra's still operational. Plus, they have, like, sleeper agents worldwide.
Yeah.
Lucky. And so, like, I mean, I definitely think that Hydra still has implications in the MCU regardless.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you think there's a possibility of seeing Hydra in future Marvel Cinematic Universe movies?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think Arnim Zola keeps that wide open.
You think so?
Yeah, I think the fact that Arnim Zola is still alive, right, and we know his comic book character, then I think that it would make total sense for Arnim to come back as like a pretty big comic character to come into the MCU as be like an actual, enemy for maybe the new Captain America.
Yeah. We see a version of Zola in not the first Avenger, in Winter Soldier, where and Camp Lehigh. And I don't know if that's what the MCU's version of this, like, android version of Zola is, where he has maybe one scene in the entire movie, but he's in this computer. And so does that mean that he could be, because the base blew up with him inside of it. Spoilers if you haven't seen that movie. But is that the MCU's version of this Zola, or do you think we should get a new Zola?
I think I think it's likely that we'll get a new Zola. I mean, I think it's one of the villains that are still left on the table, pretty open.
Yeah.
And I mean, like if the whatever his name is from this movie, that Hulk guy or whatever, I forget his name.
Red Hulk?
No, not Red Hulk. The other smart
Ross?
guy, the smart one.
Stern?
Yeah, Stern. If Stern lives that long, then I think Zola can come back realistically. And I think, I mean, he's not somebody you can just like completely write off as a villain, right? Like he's like a powerful villain.
Yeah.
And so I think like, this may be like the middle part of his progression into like becoming like the android that like we know him to be.
Yeah, that could be interesting. I think they could definitely, they being the writers, I think they could definitely find a way for Zola to become a bigger character. Maybe not like a Thanos or a Doom.
No.
But definitely another villain.
Definitely like a servant or like a commander of somebody.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you told me Zola was working for Doom, I wouldn't be surprised.
Middle management villain.
Yeah, he's a middle management villain. Yeah, like how like Thanos has like his four bros,
Children of Thanos.
Yeah. Galactus has his Herald, right?
Sure.
And so like I think it'd be cool to see Zola come back. But where were we in the movie?
So we're at the where Steve.
Steve's being turned into Captain America.
Yeah,
and
one of the biggest scenes in the movie.
Oh yeah, it's critical because we go from backstory to it's game time.
Yeah,
right. And as I'm watching this, I can't help but think of Wolverine. This whole scene.
Really?
This whole scene just reeks of Wolverine to me. Right? Like, I mean, think about it. How different really is it? instead of giving the guy the super soldier serum, you're just pumping him with metal.
Yeah.
Like, how different is it really?
Wolverine is born with an ability.
Yeah, but just the whole like we're like editing this guy's body and we're like putting like a bunch of science into this guy
Yeah.
to create this new weapon or soldier. Like
Yeah.
it just reeks of Wolverine too. There's a parallel there.
Yeah, I bet there's definitely a parallel.
Yeah.
But I think where Wolverine is born with an ability,
Mhm.
I think Steve Rogers is born with heart.
Yeah, I think this means more for Steve than it did for Wolverine.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and I find that my first real like plot or like instance of really lazy writing I think is in this scene because
What?
okay, listen, whenever they give him the serum, they use 8 of like the little like serum canisters, and of course they had to bring 9 and leave the one extra in there. Why would you have that?
I think
Why would that be there unless the guy was gonna go steal it?
I think that I mean there's any I'm gonna play I'm on the team of the riders here.
Okay, all right.
And I'm gonna say things go wrong
Then why not have a fresh set of 8 if things go wrong?
because
Oh, they all could have broken, so you need 8. No, you had one single extra.
and I mean that could be just I don't know about a plot hole, but I think
Then it moves the plot forward.
it definitely moves the plot forward.
Yeah.
But I mean the one person who knows the serum also dies, so
Yeah.
that also can move the plot forward.
Yeah.
He didn't write it down somewhere. No.
No,
It's
no,
all
no,
up
no.
here. It's all in his brain.
Well, I mean, for someone that's smart, I think that would kind of. I don't think that is that far fetched. I
Yeah.
don't think.
I don't think so. I'm on the
Yeah,
defending.
yeah.
I'm defending the
But
writers.
but
here.
I like just like you really had to have that one extra
Yeah.
laying out there in the open, like some like oh nothing at all could go wrong to this one little sample we have here.
I don't think they were
And,
expecting
well,
somebody
like
to
okay,
come
I
in
guess
and
like,
steal it.
okay, I can understand that you need the extra in order to like replicate it,
Mhm.
right? But why would it be there in the facility?
Yeah.
Right? What if the whole thing blew up and it destroyed everything in it?
Yeah.
Right? Then you'd be SOL, right? Like I don't think you anyway.
Why do you
Whatever.
think? This is another question I have.
Okay.
So why do you think that Howard Stark needs to be there? Because
I think he knows what he's doing.
he
Like,
knows, but he's a mechanical guy. He has mechanical engineering,
he says that he's the best mechanical engineer on that side of the Atlantic or
not
whatever.
biology, not
But-
chemistry.
But he's still a genius regardless.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and he probably made a lot of this machinery
Sure.
that actually like probably made the pod that
Mhm.
like turns him into that. Right? So while Ernstine or whatever made the serum, is that his name?
Erskine.
Erskine, same thing. Erskine made the serum. Okay.
Erskine, yeah.
Erskine made the serum. And Howard probably helped build the machine
Yeah.
to use the serum to turn him into the thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
He did not turn into the thing.
The thing. All right. Into Captain America. Right? But after Captain America, or Steve Rogers, whatever
Yeah.
you want to say, gets out of the pod and has this interaction with Peggy Carter where she like reaches for his chest, that's totally unscripted. That was totally
I
unscripted.
didn't know that.
That is, yeah. She was just
Man,
astonished, for lack of a better word. That's an unscripted scene.
I think that scene is also important because before then we see that Peggy and Steve have a connection.
Yeah.
I think we also find out that Peggy doesn't like Steve because he's buff, he's strong.
Yeah, but it definitely helps him out a lot in the movie.
Well, sure, but
like
and
like an insurmountable amount, I think.
But I think that it's because we know that he doesn't know much about women. That
That's
we know
evident.
that. And like no girls like him because
Because he's tiny.
he's this poor guy.
He's scrawny.
But
little guy.
and as soon as he does get the serum, he gets noticed. But this one girl that he talks to that actually cares about him before the serum is Peggy.
Mm-hmm.
I think
That's
that
true.
that it's important to know that she's not in it just because he looks jacked. She's in it because she cares about him.
Yeah, but also motivated her.
Okay, sure.
I mean, oh yeah, I'll go out with you if this serum thing works.
Yeah. Sure. When we don't really see them going out, we imply
yeah, yeah,
that they have like
yeah. Because
relations, but nothing
there's
really
obviously
happens.
something there, but we don't see anything in the movie until they kiss in the hangar later on.
Yeah.
That they're actually doing something about it.
Yeah.
Because because Steve's convinced that her and Howard are fond doing it.
Yeah, on fondue.
That's so funny.
But jumping back, so this Hydra guy,
Mm-hmm. Who
Steve,
was the Secretary of State or something?
yeah, so he's a
Which is
higher up.
crazy.
And which means that they've been in the government for long before this
Oh, yeah.
as well. So when Steve finds that Erskine is shot by this Hydra
Mhm.
guy, I think that is the first Avenger. I don't think it's taught. I think most people assume that it's like the first Avenger of the Avengers. I think it could also be seen. I mean, yes, that's right too, but it could also be seen as Steve avenging Erskine.
Yeah.
That I think I was watching the movie.
The first Avenger avenging? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I guess so. But when it says Captain America, the first Avenger, I think the first Avenger is Steve Rogers for Erskine.
Yeah, but I also don't think he's the first person in history to have avenged somebody.
Yeah, I guess you're
I
right.
think it's the first Avenger doing the avenging.
Yeah.
Right? It's the whole part of this even the word Avenger is really important because in the whole operative, it's not to attack people or to conquer nations, right?
Yeah.
They could easily use the Avengers to conquer a whole nation
Or the
but
world.
they use it to protect, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a whole part of the shield. Like we're avenging. We're not attacking. We're avenging, right? Where people are doing bad to us, so then we're protecting and we're avenging what's been done poorly,
Yeah.
right? They're not meant to go out and attack people. They're a defensive force,
Yeah.
right? And I think that this is the first we kind of see it's all about Steve's personality and character, right? Because he's not an aggressive guy. He doesn't like bullies. He's a defensive guy that is seeking to protect and avenge, not to him and Red Skull are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
They both have the serum.
yeah, different versions of it, granted,
Yeah.
but because Steve's face isn't red, but
In this chase scene, I heard somewhere, I can't remember where. So I'm gonna say allegedly, the what's his name? Chris Evans has rubber boots on that look like feet. When he starts booking it after the
Really?
guy, he's wearing fake feet. And I think that was hilarious.
well, I guess he falls through glass and stuff. So
yeah,
he's
he's running on pavement.
yeah. Well, pavement's one thing, but him getting up out of the glass of the shop
Yeah.
and the glass all over the floor. Yeah, I guess so.
And when he's running that fast, I think it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think that. Well, he's also a super soldier now.
Yeah.
But I think that makes
But
sense. Yeah.
Chris Evans not a super soldier.
Yeah, that's true. Chris Evans is a super soldier. I guess so. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was
That
a
would
fun
make
fact.
sense. Same way Tony wears really tall boots.
Yeah.
Right. They both have something going on there.
Yeah. And they both need a
little bit
what is it called?
Pediatric.
A foot
not
doctor?
pediatric, a foot doctor.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway, we're Marvel people, not doctors.
No. So you're not actually for doctor advice.
Yeah, no. Anyway, they Chris Evans is running in these rubber shoes after the Hydra guy. I really hope it sounded like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And another shield foreshadow happens where he's blocking these bullets with the car door.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be the second and final one before he gets an actual shield.
Before he gets the Spangled Banner.
Yeah,
shield.
yeah. This Star Spangled Man, shield. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's really interesting to see that he uses this idea of a shield even before he gets one, which is another sign of his being a protecting force. And then when this Hydra guy throws this kid in the water, another hilarious moment.
Don't worry, I can swim.
Swim.
That was so.
I
funny.
think I laughed out loud.
I think what's more funny than what the kid says is that this kid has had a gun to his head and he's perfectly fine.
You know, it's the 40s, Ethan.
Like, he just got in a chokehold, gun to his head, thrown into the water. Go get him! Don't worry, I can swim.
I can swim. I
Like,
think
that was really funny.
But that also might contribute to the idea of wartime and like
Bombing air raids
this
and people are
this
used
kid
to it.
is rooting for, I guess, what he sees as the good guy.
Yeah.
And the environment that he's basically grown up in has been, oh, my country is going and fighting the Nazis, fighting the bad
Yeah,
guys.
nationalism, dude.
Yeah,
Propaganda.
and I think that could be a reason why he kind of snaps into, "Don't worry, I can swim," with this one line.
Yeah,
Um,
it's him doing his part, like they
yeah.
say in the movies. Everyone doing their part.
Yeah, like
Um,
little Timmy with his wagon.
Yeah, but also we see that the serums get destroyed. That he
Mhm.
stole is
Yeah.
destroyed, which is just yeah. Anyway,
The one serum.
yeah, and then he gets in his super secret underwater car.
I was thinking you said Despicable Me. I was thinking The Incredibles.
Yeah.
With
We're both on like the cartoony like
Yeah.
spy trinket kind of
the sleekness of the it looks a lot like
Ma-da-ba-ma-na.
yeah. That sounded like the McDonald's theme song.
No, it didn't.
It looked a lot like Johan's like sleek black car too. He
Yeah.
really has a style to it, which is
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's discreet. Like, that's the point.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
most like spy movies.
It looks
like,
evil.
You wear black. I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, like, I don't think America's going over the Atlantic with
Yeah.
white, red and blue submarines. They're probably all black.
Yeah. I guess you're right too. I guess you're right. And then he gets ripped out of the submarine.
Yeah, which is like
crazy.
Yeah,
he's
like,
strong, but I didn't
water
know he was that
pressure.
strong.
Or you're holding your breath. You just got done essentially being tortured. Like,
Ethan, we just watched a movie about Thor and a rainbow bridge. I think
Okay.
water pressure is the least of our.
okay, whatever.
Um,
But I think it was that scene where he goes in the water. I was like, okay, this guy is a super soldier.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's going in there, he's tearing the thing. It had to have been able to, like, lock on to, like, the rest of the submarine. So his egg is just destroying. I think people underestimate how strong Captain America is
Yeah.
and how hard this guy punches. I
Yeah.
think in the most of the MCU, when he's not fighting like Thanos or somebody, he's holding his punches. I think he's pulling them for the majority of the MCU.
Yeah. Well, we see he can take on Thanos like
Mhm.
single handedly. He's holding back the gauntlet.
Even the end credit scene, which we'll get to later.
Yeah. It's and even in this movie where he punches Red Skull, he goes flying.
Yeah, but also it's kind of because Red Skull, we see how Red Skull kind of shows us how proportionate Steve is too. So whenever he punches his shield and like dents the thing,
Yeah.
you're like, wow, he just dented steel. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, with his bare freaking hands.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, but we can get into that later.
Mess with the guy that punches metal for fun.
So he doesn't. Steve doesn't get to live his dream quite yet. He gets put into selling war bonds.
Yep.
Another man, Star Spangled Man with a Plan runs on in my head,
Yeah.
rent free.
Yeah.
Man, I'm scrubbing the dishes and I'm singing that song.
Star Spangled Man.
Star Spangled Man with a Plan, iconic.
Yeah.
And then that montage cuts hard into going back to.
First,
Oh.
I want to stop you. There's something that's really. You can look at it as cool, but also pretty funny.
Okay.
Is that there's a blonde woman that begs him for his autograph.
Yeah.
Right? And she's the same actor that plays as Peter Quill's like grandmother in Guardians of the Galaxy.
What?
Or like his mother. Or James Gunn essentially says or likes to think that woman that has asked Steve for his autograph is Peter Quill's grandma.
Whoa.
Yeah. Because they're the same
Yeah.
actress. And I think that's just really funny because technically you can trace back the Guardians of the Galaxy to Captain America.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's a little
Wow.
a little tidbit. I'm a big
Man,
Easter egg kind of guy.
Everything ties back into Captain America. Is that what we're learning here? That's interesting.
Captain America and Iron Man.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, as much as Captain America's around, Stark's also around here.
Sure.
So the Stark family, I guess.
Sure.
Anyway,
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway.
Stark
Stark contrast.
Yeah. So it cuts right to. I guess are they in Germany? France?
Italy. They're in Italy.
Italy.
Yeah.
Um.
The the scene of him drawing the little monkey on the unicycle
We never see him draw again. But
was so good. That was just so cringy to me.
What?
Like that was just. I don't know. I guess it's like it defies expectations because you
Yeah.
expect this guy who's now like huge, this like big like fighter or whatever, to be able to be like, whatever, and just to move on.
hmm
But he's just sitting here drawing his little monkey on a unicycle, and I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, buddy, get back up.
Okay.
Like,
Hey, I think that we don't ever see him draw again.
yeah,
But I think it is exactly what you just said. It is diverting expectations of this big, strong guy has a heart. In Italy, he hears that the 107th has gotten captured or killed, and only, I think, 15 made it back.
yeah.
Um,
And 107 has his boy Bucky in it.
and 107 has his homeboy, James Buchanan Barnes.
James Buchanan, Bucky.
Bucky. And he's like, oh shoot, I gotta do something. I'm not gonna sit here anymore,
Yeah.
twiddling my thumbs, doing my little dancey dance,
Mhm.
punching Hitler, when I could be actually doing something. So what does he do? He does something.
Yeah.
He goes by himself, along with
Peggy
and
and Howard.
Stark. But basically by himself.
Yeah, pretty much.
He jumps out of a plane,
Yeah.
no parachute. I
Right.
think.
DB Cooper style.
Yeah, for real. DB Cooper had a parachute though.
Allegedly.
He had 3. Anyway, we're not talking about DB Cooper.
Anyway, sorry.
He jumps out of the plane and basically single-handedly releases these like how many people? Like a lot of people.
It's like 400 people.
Yeah. And they ransack this base.
Yeah.
He finds Bucky
Yeah.
already being experimented on.
Oh yeah, just uttering just random crap to himself.
Which
We know what that is later,
yeah.
but it's also where we see that like we kind of glossed over when Arnhem and Schmidt have actually like harnessed the Tesseract,
yeah.
which I think is really funny in an inconsistent way because you're telling me that they can like figure out how to harness this like stone that like helps hold a fabric of space together, but they can't get colorized photography yet.
Yeah.
Like that's just so random.
They I do
Shows
notice.
you where their priorities are.
Yeah, for real. I do notice that in this movie, the Hydra has a lot more advanced equipment than anybody did.
Than the
in
generic
reality.
public, yeah.
Yeah. Like the security cameras look pretty good
Yeah.
for being in 1941. And I was like, well, that seems inaccurate. But then I remember they can harness an Infinity Stone. They could probably do that.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine like a group of people that can make a system to control an Infinity Stone, but not like make a microwave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like or like just like other like little pieces of technology that we take for granted.
Mhm.
Which I mean, I'm sure they could, but it just kind of shows you where their priorities are.
Yeah, for sure. Of taking over the world.
Yeah. Also, like your planes.
And crazy.
What?
To go.
I know you see this like super complicated advanced control panel, and the tiny little like yellow, black and white
Yeah.
camera screen. I'm like, all right, what? Really?
Their main goal is to make
Explode it.
weapons. And act like I don't know. Their main is to make weapons
Yeah.
and take over the
Take over the
world.
world. Yeah, we're Love Nation. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. So he finds Bucky,
Mhm.
and who's already getting experimented on, which could definitely lead into him being the Winter Soldier.
Uh-huh. Sorry.
And then they basically blow up the base. Am I right?
Yeah, and this could just be me being forgetful or like thinking ahead. Bucky's also a super soldier. Is he not?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
I think when he falls from the
The train.
the train.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
okay,
we can get
okay.
into
Sorry,
that
I'm
a
jumping
little
ahead a little bit.
So then we have this epic, honestly epic face reveal. Red Skull face reveal.
It's Red Skull. The skull's red. No way.
And it looks so good.
It looks really good.
Oh my gosh.
It looks like crazy good.
Yeah. And having Red Skull as the first villain for Captain America is, first of all, necessary. Second of all, so important and
Oh, yeah.
so cool. Like, he's so powerful.
Oh yeah.
Like, he he's the first one that we see really going after the Infinity Stones in
Yeah.
the Infinity Saga.
Well, and it's not like he knows it's an Infinity Stone, right?
He knows
Like
relatively that it's really
he
powerful.
knows that there's this really powerful artifact.
Hmm.
About all, like he doesn't know it's like the Space Stone or
Yeah.
like there's 5 others like it or anything
Yeah.
like that. But it is the first Infinity Stone that we
Mhm.
see being used and manipulated.
We do know that he eventually does realize it is an Infinity Stone because when I think it's in the Infinity War, when we find Red Skull again,
Hmm.
he says, "I too, like wanted the stones, search after the stones,"
Hmm.
and it led him to
Vormir.
Vormir, and which is super cool because, well, we'll get into it later, but
Yeah.
we see him not die in this movie, but
Yeah.
get zapped.
Yeah.
Anyway, we see Red Skull face reveal, which has been foreshadowed since probably the second scene of the movie where he says, "I too have been burned by something,"
Yeah.
and he like touches his face,
Yeah, and
and
it's the like red under his eye and
yeah,
stuff like that.
oh,
Yeah.
that crazy when like he gets punched
Yeah.
and his like face starts drooping.
Yeah, that's it's really good.
Makeup designers, we appreciate you
Yeah,
in
they
this
did a
movie.
good job. They
You
did
did
a
a
really good job.
fantastic job. Um, and then fast forward, he gets together. He survives. Shocker.
Hmm.
And he comes back to the base where he's basically celebrated.
Yeah,
Um,
he's that guy.
he is him
He's
in
that
this
guy.
movie.
Yeah.
And he's putting together a team to basically go after all these other Hydra bases
Oh
that he
yeah,
finds.
Hydra knockout montage.
For
Let me
sure.
tell you. So Steve pretty much goes to the bar and gets all these guys together. He's
Mhm.
pretty much just saved from captivity.
Yeah.
And says, "Listen, I have this proposition. Let's go blow up a bunch of Hydra bases,
Mhm.
right?" And there's a funny line where the guy's like, "You know how you can get me to do that?"
Open a tab. Yeah.
Right, and that's really funny. And that kind of shows you like where they're all at. And so pretty much, then we get shifted into this montage of Captain America and the boys going through tackling all these like different Hydra bases, right? If there's one guy that's part of the, do you know the guy that has a big mustache?
Is he French or is he English?
Maybe, but he's like a white
Is he
guy.
redhead?
He's a really big, yeah.
Yeah.
He reminds me of one of the guys in Brave New World. The guy that they
It's
asked.
not right. It's not right.
Or
You're
wait, am I
younger
thinking of
than
the right guy? I think of the right movie because there's a scene where like maybe I'm thinking of the wrong movie. Where is he? Where is that from? He looks really familiar.
He reminded me of Volstagg in Thor.
No, he's not Volstagg. There's, I think I'm thinking of the right movie. I think it's in Brave New World.
Okay, if it's not, we can cut it out.
No, it is because
Okay.
do you know? Because remember they go and ask for like international assistance to help find. No, it's an Agent Carter. It's an Agent Carter. This guy's an Agent Carter.
I bet he is, because
Yeah.
that would make sense.
Yes, this guy's an Agent Carter. There's like this Russian like operative that's in the U.S. and they pretty much enlist his help to go and like track down where she lives. And sorry.
So he appears again in Agent Carter.
He's in Agent Carter. Yes.
I think they name this group the Flying Commandos. Is that right?
Maybe.
Um,
I couldn't tell you.
I'm pretty sure, but
The
we
Flying
can see.
Commandos?
Um,
They don't fly either, but no.
or something. I don't remember.
They
but
have
it
some
does.
name.
This group does come up again. I think in other, because there's a Captain America exhibit in a museum, and they're in that. So this sick montage.
Yeah.
And we see this group of boys, these fellas,
The boys.
basically ransacking all these
Oh yeah.
bases, and then we get to the train
Mhm.
where it's our fellows finding Zola is basically their mission.
Yeah. They said that pretty much they have intel that tells them that Zola needs to be somewhere as soon as possible.
Mhm.
And so they're racing around this train, and their idea, their plan is they're gonna zip line down, land on the train, bust in, take out whoever's in there, and capture Zola.
Yeah.
Before he can crunch some pill and go bye bye.
Yeah. And this does end up having Bucky getting blasted out of the train.
Yeah, they fight this guy that has like the Tesseract weapons on his arms.
Mm-hmm.
He just punches a hole in the train, and the vacuum just sucks Bucky out to the door. And Steve is like trying his best to reach for him, but Bucky inevitably falls down, which we assume to be to his death.
Yeah.
But later on, we'll come back to him.
Yeah.
And so then we see Steve just absolutely obliterate this guy. And then they crash. The other boys crash through the roof, capture Zola. And then we see this like really like depressed Steve sitting in the bar by himself. Peggy comes to check up on him, and he says, "My cells are like so strong, and regenerative that I can't get drunk."
Can't get drunk, and I think it's devastating to him. Steve has lost basically everybody. His mom gone, his dad gone, Bucky now,
His best friend,
who's known forever,
Yeah.
is gone. So it makes sense why he's so sad. And he's gonna do something about it.
Yeah, he's gonna avenge him.
He's gonna but he didn't die, which we find out
Yeah,
in the later movies.
yeah. But anyway, their intel tells them that all the parts they're making these Hydra bases are being shipped off to somewhere that they don't know where it is yet.
Yeah.
Right, and so the colonel goes in, talks to Zola, says, "Listen, you want to live," and he's like, "Yeah, I don't really want to die." And so the colonel cuts him a deal, says, "Tell me where the base is, and we'll do our best." Right? They figure out the base is in the Alps, right? And so now they're gonna assemble this team, and they're trying to figure out what we're gonna do. And Cap says, "We're just gonna go straight on in, break the door down,
Yeah.
bust in, tell them what's up, real guns blazing style, right?"
Literally.
And so they pull to the Alps, and we see Captain America start fighting his way through all these different like grunts, goons, all these like this really cool Tesseract like weaponry.
Yeah.
That like it doesn't just like kill you. It like I don't think the people like I got hit by this died. I think they all got teleported somewhere really random in the universe and are just like ended up probably dying of lack of oxygen, but just got teleported somewhere random. Right? I feel like it's like
That makes sense.
yeah, like because how he gets it, and he gets shot up by Tesseract later. But anyway,
You know what'd be really funny?
What?
Is if in a future MCU project, we see these guys again on another planet.
and they like colonized it, kind of like in Deadpool Wolverine, where like all these people like got it's Deadpool Wolverine, essentially. How
I was
like they all
thinking-
got like abandoned, they all got like forced in there, right? And this random plane of trash and heap that they just started civilization.
I was thinking like in nowhere, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
sure, that works too.
Yeah. I think they just get zapped somewhere.
Yeah. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah. And we pretty much start to see this. Like at first, it's not looking great. Like it doesn't look too good. And so Red Skull says, "All right, we're nuking the place." And it flips up all these like switches and start all these different timers to blow the whole base up.
Yeah.
Right. His plan is to just take himself
Yeah.
and get out and fly the plane over the eastern seaboard and blow it up within an hour. Right. And we see all these like little. I thought they were bombs at first, but they're planes.
They're both.
They're bombs and they're bomb planes.
Yeah.
Right, and they all have like these big U.S. cities labeled on them.
Mm-hmm.
So Cap is rushing through here.
He sees New York.
He sees New York and he's like, "Oh heck no!"
Yeah.
And then he falls down out of the plane on top of this little bomb, beats the guy that's in there. Don't know what happens to that bomb. It landed on somebody somewhere.
I think it's in the ocean. I'm pretty
Probably. And they probably recover it later on as government, whatever. And how does he get back up on the plane? I forget.
He flies the bomb into the plane. he rips this guy out. He first off he throws one guy into the propeller.
Throws the other guy into he's just dead.
And then
he's gone.
But then he has mercy on this other guy and pulls his chute for him. And then he flies out.
And before he like jumps onto the plane, he throws all these other guys out of the plane.
Yeah.
They're just dead. Like they're gone. There's no chance.
But he flies this plane bomb back into the plane to
Which
get
is
out.
crazy to me. That just is crazy.
He's probably the most courageous guy in the MCU.
Has he flown a plane? I don't think so. I don't see.
He's just jumped out of them.
Oh yeah, I know that means he knows how to fly them retroactively.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I don't think that's why he crashed into it. I think he doesn't know how to fly.
Anyway, he gets back into the big, spy plane that Red Skull's flying. And inevitably, him and Zola are trying to get out, or they're already on the plane.
Yeah.
Zola was just given the car keys and told the figure it out.
No, Zola is already captured.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry.
This is just Red Skull.
Golly. Red Skull, Cap gets captured, inevitably, surrounded, and goes to meet Red Skull.
Yeah.
And I think this sequence is really funny
Mm-hmm.
because Red Skull essentially says, I've seen the future, a future without flags. Which you can
Yeah.
take that as like like he knows Thanos is coming and stuff like that. Or you could just say that's his plan, his future that he saw as his plan.
Yeah.
And he pretty much offers Captain America the power of the gods. He's like, you can have the power of the gods, like whatever. And I think this makes Mjolnir really funny because he rejects the power of the gods, making him worthy to wield the power of the gods, which I think is really fun. I think it's a cool little like oh,
I've never think about that.
I know, right? He rejects the power of the gods.
He does eventually be able to. He's eventually able to wield.
Yeah,
Mjolnir.
it makes him worthy, right?
Yeah.
And we see in like when he's pulling on it in Ultron, like he kind of like moves it a little bit.
Yeah.
So like we already know that he's like pretty practically worthy
Yeah.
at this point, right? And so he says, "I don't want the power of the gods," but ends up with it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then this is where we see Red Skull basically. He has the cube. He has the Tesseract.
The Rubik's cube.
Not he doesn't have the Rubik's. He has the Tesseract.
Yeah.
And then he gets beamed. Well, and then
To Vormir.
I guess Vormir.
Vormir, yeah.
Which is really interesting. Does this mean that the Infinity Stones can talk to each other? Do you think?
I mean, they all have to work together to create this, like to create the timeline,
Sure.
right? Because when the old Sorcerer Supreme is explaining it, the banner that like they all work, like all like the 6 stones work together to create the timeline.
Yeah.
You take one of them out of it, and it's supposed to freak out.
Sure.
I mean, I think it's just like nature, right? Like they know they all do their own part to like keep everything together.
So do you think that the Space Stone? I like to think that they all have different personalities.
Okay.
And so that the Space Stone didn't want to kill Red Skull, but kind of basically torture him.
To make him pay for it.
Yeah, make
he's
him
done to manipulate the Tesseract.
because I don't think the Space Stone would the Power Stone. I think would kill him.
Yeah.
If he held it at least.
Yeah.
But the Space Stone basically teleports him to Vormir for the Soul Stone.
Yeah, to be the guardian of the Soul Stone, so he can sit in the corner of Vormir and think about what he's done.
Yeah, he puts him in timeout.
Yeah, he puts him in timeout. Says, "Hey, you need to think about what you did and protect the stone while you're at it."
Yeah, the Space Stone puts Red Skull in timeout.
Yeah, I would love to have seen Cap go back and put the Soul Stone back.
Yeah.
Right, and seen that kind of interaction.
Yeah.
That must have been a really pleasant conversation.
For sure. Which would be interesting. I think I've heard that from a lot of different Marvel fans. But I don't think we're ever going to get it.
I don't think we will, but that's just something that they're really going to miss out on forever.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I would love to see a movie of Captain America. Not even a movie. It could be like a 3 or 4, like a 6 episode TV show of one episode for him putting back each of them, right? And you can just watch him go back, and then I think it would round out his character much better than just him like showing back up really old, having lived his like awesome life. But instead him going and seeing him, do all these really hard tasks to eventually get his reward of ending up to stay behind with Peggy.
So going back to that, we know that Cap goes back to put the stones and ends up with Peggy. We also know that I think Peggy gets remarried. So when he goes back, does that mean that she is married to Steve Rogers?
I would think so, because we had that clip of them slow dancing together, right?
Yeah.
Right, and that would make sense. And if you watch Agent Carter, like she definitely after Steve, like looks for other people, right? And because she she can't just stay on Steve forever, no matter how cool of a guy he was, right? But I think that that's a weird thing to think about because that means that there's some people that were never born.
What do you mean?
Because if Steve gets married to Peggy
Yeah.
before she gets married to somebody else, right? The timeline is just really funky, right? Because if you think about it, right, there's like the normal timeline, right? It was where Peggy marries somebody else, and assuming they have children, right? And then that's in the 40s. So we're talking like maybe a generation or two here, right? and then Steve goes back and marries her instead, then those people that were the children of Peggy and this other random guy cease to exist.
I think this other random guy is Steve Rogers. Okay, so let me talk you through this.
Then that means
I think that I think there's a world that with two Steve Rogers in it.
I hate the timeline rules of the Marvel Universe.
But it makes sense. Okay, hold on. Ready?
Okay, yeah.
So Steve, then we'll get back to this movie, but I think this is important because this happens we can assume
the timeline rules here reek.
Pretty after the events of this movie. So when Steve goes back, I think he goes back after Agent Carter is finished-ish, to where she marries Steve, and Steve does not look like Steve anymore. So when I think Steve goes back looking like he did at the end of Endgame, he knows when, and just goes back to where Peggy would be the same age. So they can marry each other, and it wouldn't look iffy. Like I think.
So then, how does he carry her casket?
What do you mean?
Because remember, and I don't know if it's in this movie, but when Peggy dies, he carries her
Civil War?
casket. Yeah, and he's much younger.
Yeah, because that's the Steve. There's just two Steve Rogers.
Oh man!
In the MCU, at a lot of it, there's two Steve Rogers.
That just.
Oh wait, does that mean that he wouldn't be at her funeral? Because we know that he comes back as old man Steve Rogers.
He doesn't come back. He just waits it out.
Yeah, he waits it out.
Yeah.
Or he is at the funeral and we just don't notice.
This
we can make a whole different short about this or something.
Yeah.
This would be really interesting.
We need to do an episode about explaining the time rules.
Anyway, going back to the first Avenger.
Yeah. First Avenger.
The Tesseract falls out after.
Oh yeah, burns straight out of the plane into the ocean.
Yeah, and then we know that they find it.
Yeah.
But then there's this really heartfelt moment between Peggy and Steve when Steve knows what he has to do, and Peggy does too, and he crashes the plane. And that's basically how it ends. Like there's
if I remember, I watched Agent Carter a few months ago, and I'm pretty sure in the first few episodes she goes to the bar. I think she does go to the bar.
The crane. It's some bird.
The crane lounge, the striker lounge, some bar.
Something.
Where they said that they would meet in a week next Saturday, and I'm pretty sure she goes. Right, holds up her end of the deal.
Yeah,
which is sweet.
We see in Age of Ultron, Steve also, like when Wanda messes with Steve's mind, he goes back to a club and tries to dance with Peggy too. Yeah. So he's always thinking about that moment.
Yeah.
But we see after this moment, we see Peggy looking through files, finding a picture of Steve. We see that exact picture being framed and put in her office.
Oh yeah, game. And she has it. It's all over Agent Carter.
Yeah,
like she has that picture wherever she goes.
And it's so. And I think that also plays into our theory of where does Steve go, when.
Yeah, that just
makes... Because if some other dude married Peggy. And she's just carrying around this picture.
Well, I mean, she'd have we see her carry it around before she gets remarried, right? Like she doesn't get married in Agent Carter.
Yeah.
Right, and so like it's very possible she can just eventually, and also she can eventually just say, yeah, that was a good friend of mine. You know, like that doesn't
Yeah.
But I still think that whole timeline's convoluted.
Yeah, we can talk about it. We can break it down in another video.
Yeah, that's for another video. Yeah, that needs some proper research and note taking.
Yeah, but anyway, he wakes up in this facility of S.H.I.E.L.D. in, I think, 2011, 2012.
Yeah, 2012.
Around there. He breaks out and...
Because he had... That just is such a S.H.I.E.L.D.
like
blunder.
Yeah.
Like they played a game that was like a baseball game that was much earlier than when Steve should have gone missing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's just so. But that actually was a real baseball game. And that baseball
Yeah.
game did happen, and the score was accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Everything they said on the radio was accurate, which is a cool little Easter egg.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then he breaks out of this facility.
He went to the game too.
Yeah, after they tried to recreate Peggy, they had to have made her try and look like Peggy Carter.
I think made her look like someone.
You can't tell me.
I don't think they were trying to make her look like Peggy.
But yeah, but they knew that the two of them were affiliated.
Sure.
Right, and so that could help.
At least somebody of the time.
Yeah, and then he busts out and runs into the streets of New York City,
Times Square.
Times Square. Yeah, and Nick Fury's like, "Hey man, it's 2012.
That's
You were
for over
gone
70
it's about
years.
70 years." Yeah, and then that's pretty much the end of the movie.
Yeah. And then end credits is basically a trailer for Avengers.
Yeah, but we also see the scene of him punching the bag,
Yeah.
where he sends that thing flying.
Yeah.
Like he is not someone to be reckoned with.
No. He's really strong, and that super soldier serum really worked. We can definitely see that.
Oh yeah.
Any last thoughts?
No, I think it's time.
It's time
They're waiting for it.
for the reality rankings. Okay, so we have the reality rankings
Yep.
up here, and we're basically, this is our list. We have Iron Man at number 1, Thor at number 2, Iron Man 2 at number 2, and
3.
At number 3. You're right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the
Anytime.
Incredible Hulk at number 4. And
Yeah.
now showing what we have on deck is Captain America, the First Avenger.
Yeah.
Where do you want this movie?
Let's start. Where do you want this movie?
I want this movie at number 1.
No.
I think
No.
this movie is better than Iron Man.
I disagree.
Why do you disagree?
I think that while this movie, I want this movie at number 2
Why number 2?
because I think if I like this movie more than Thor,
Okay.
right? I think we can agree on that. That this movie was better than Thor.
Yeah, for sure.
It's more low to the ground, makes it more easy to understand for the average person, and it keeps me engaged throughout the majority of the movie. But the reason why I like Iron Man more than Captain America is that in Captain America, after he confronts Red Skull the first time, the rest of the movie just feels kind of off to me. Like, he encounters Red Skull for the first time, right? They have their little duel or whatever, and the bridges get separated, right? And then I really feel like the movie should have just ended with the last Red Skull fight scene, but there. Right? I feel like that just should have, like...
There's
the
no
whole
stakes.
The whole... well, I know, but, like, I'm saying that, like, the whole montage of them going to all these Hydra bases is kind of just filler. The only thing that happens that is of significance is Bucky falling.
That's very significant.
I know, but that could have been done. They could have just done that mission to capture Arnhem, right? Skip the whole rest of the montage, right? Captured Arnhem, and then gone to the Alps.
I don't think that would fulfill the idea that they have this down. They are now experienced soldiers fighting Hydra. Like, this is what they do.
Yeah, I guess just in my opinion, the gap between the two meetings of Cap and Red Skull just kind of inflate the movie a little bit.
Inflate?
Yeah, they just like make it like longer than it needs to be.
Oh, okay. I disagree. I think the stakes get higher after that because they know what they're dealing with.
Yeah,
And it's not Cap doesn't know that how powerful Red Skull is until he gets punched by him.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, we have to really nail this down, or else we'll lose the entire world.
Which they decided to go in guns blazing.
What?
Which they decided to go in guns blazing.
Exactly.
But that's not anyway.
I think this movie is funnier than Iron Man.
I disagree.
I think the characters are definitely more likable than Iron Man.
Because they're meant to be.
Exactly.
These characters are meant to be likable. When Iron Man gives you more of like a more ethically deliberable character. His ethics and morals are more questionable and makes him more complex that way. Steve Rogers is just like, let's go America, Patriot, let's go, Captain America.
But
there's not a lot of depth.
To Captain America?
There's an extent with Bucky, but like him as a personal character, right? Like he doesn't have like an Iron Man 2. You know what I mean? I guess in Winter Soldier, Captain America.
Captain America definitely he gets like his country turns on him.
That's true.
And I think
but that's later. That's not this movie.
Exactly. Like Iron Man 2 isn't Tony Stark.
Okay. I just really do think Iron Man 1's better.
You can't give me a reason.
I mean, let me watch the movie again. I mean, Iron Man 1.
We watched this movie like not that long ago.
5 weeks ago, minimum.
It was 3 weeks ago. Anyway.
2, 4, 6, 8 weeks ago.
6 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2 months. It's
I think I care about these characters that I found in this movie. I think Peggy and Steve Rogers are the best relationship in all of MCU.
I would agree. From what
definitely better than Tony and Pepper.
Yes, but I think that
hold on. I've been keeping this the entire show.
You're a freak. You're a freak.
I recognize that I might have this conversation, and so I came prepared, and I'm wearing my Captain America shirt to plead my case on why this needs to be number 1.
I should have worn my Stark Industries.
Well, you didn't.
I thought about it. I saw it in the closet today. Captain America has a better supporting cast.
Yeah,
I will give you that.
And he has a better angle. I have hope in Captain America. I don't have as much hope and drive for Iron Man. So, okay, don't think about it as Iron Man and Captain America as characters. Think about it as movies.
Yeah.
I think the villain in Iron Man 1, Ironmonger, is not a good villain.
No.
He's weak, and he pulls the movie down. Red Skull is an amazing villain.
He's good.
You just said that.
He's good in this movie.
He raises the stakes. He's strong. He is powerful in not just his own strength, but also in the way he's affecting the world. Like he's going for world domination.
Mm-hmm.
If this was in 2012, this would be an Avengers level threat.
Are you saying that Captain America is better because it's a all stakes? Is it because the stakes are higher?
I'm saying it because that it makes me feel that there's more on the line than the company being taken over by this bad guy.
I mean, obviously, but I don't think just having having higher stakes makes the movie better.
Okay, then tell me why.
I think the comedy in Iron Man 1's better. I think
tell me something funny in Iron Man 1.
All of it. The plane scene with him and Rhodey, where he's like, no, I'm not drinking, man. And then it cuts to them with essentially strippers on the plane, right? That's
that funny.
That's
that makes me feel sad for them.
Why?
Because
it's
he's
a funny
sad.
scene.
I think that scene is supposed to show that that's the before Iron Man.
Okay, the scene where he's supposed to be getting his award and he's out there gambling instead. That's
also
funny.
Before Iron Man.
Because this whole movie's before Iron Man.
No.
He's at the very end of this movie.
Also before that's a hopeless Tony Stark.
Okay. The same like Captain America in the start of this movie is scrawny, but he has heart. I think the inverse can be said about Iron Man. Is that he has a very big outward showing about his power and his influence and his money, and eventually the Iron Man suit. But instead of him developing a body and powers over time, he develops heart over time. I think they're just the same but different.
But tell me how that makes it a funny movie.
We agreed for 8 weeks that this is a funny movie.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that Captain America has more funny moments.
I think you're falling victim to recency bias.
No, because I always knew that Iron Man was not my favorite MCU movie.
Well, I think we just have to agree or disagree on this.
But we can't. This is our ranking.
It has to go somewhere.
Yes.
You think it should be at 1, and I think it should be at 2.
I gave you Iron Man 2 and not at number 1.
I mean, we could have put Iron Man 2 at 1, but I think Thor's better than Iron Man 2.
I agree. If this were my list, Iron Man would be at number 3.
Wow. We can put it at number 1.
Can we? And And we can. I mean, we got some pretty heavy hitters upcoming.
I'm not going to say it isn't going to change. I may watch Iron Man 1 again before next episode.
Sure.
But I'm okay with putting it at number 1 right now.
For now, I think
it will be at number 1.
I think it has so much more like we're gonna have to do this. The characters really pull.
It has
pull
a
this
better
movie.
supporting cast,
For sure.
and they put in a lot of work in this movie. Because if you put the same supporting cast that Iron Man had in Captain America's movie, it would not do as well at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Robert Downey Jr. carries that movie.
He does, but I also think that shows how great of an actor he is.
Yes.
Right. In this role, and also it makes like it's kind of like almost like an analogy for like how at the beginning of the movie he has to do everything himself. Right. But things change.
Yeah. I think if we, as a whole, not just the characters, I think I would rather watch. Like you were saying, would you rather watch this movie or this movie? If it was between Iron Man and Captain America, I would choose this movie.
I wouldn't watch Iron Man, but
when we're putting them face to face, I think the force. I think the force is stronger in Captain America when we put them head to head because of how great the supporting cast is, how likable those supporting cast characters and Captain America are, and Tony Stark is likable, but some of the other foundational characters aren't, and the villain does not help.
That's true.
So
the villain doesn't help his case.
Yeah.
But also I think Captain America, like I can appreciate all parts of this movie and I understand why they're there. But just because they're there doesn't mean I have to enjoy them.
Yeah.
Right. And the whole section of him being a Star Spangled Man, I did not enjoy. That part.
You didn't like the song?
No, I did not like it. It was annoying.
He probably didn't like it either.
Exactly. It was annoying. And I like him playing homage to his old suit from the comics. That's great. Fine. But that whole like section just kind of some of the scenes in this movie feel really extra to me. And you could say that there is some of that with Iron Man, right?
Like you said that the entire last
the Act 3 does kind of lost me. Not the last half, like the last third or fourth kind of loses me a little bit. But also, I'd say the same thing about Captain America here. Like, I think like that chunk between the two Red Skull fights, and I'm like, whatever. This is like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, you really like the first 15 minutes of movies, and that makes sense because they need to be.
They need to draw you in. It's the hook.
Yeah,
right. Like it's important to get your audience hooked and make them what's going on here.
Yeah, and I do recognize that in this movie it takes a little longer to get.
Yeah, this movie takes a little bit longer to get to Captain America.
Sure.
Right, because Steve, before he's Captain America, I don't really like him.
Man, you don't like the nice guy?
I don't like pre-Captain America Steve. I'm like I can see why he wants to do what he's doing, and it's admirable. But I just don't care. Or like he's not like, I guess he isn't very unique at the start of this movie. Yeah. It's not until he becomes Captain America that he's like a unique standout character.
His heart is unique. We see that compared to.
There are good people on the planet. Well, like it's not just Steve.
But none of them are the soldiers like Steve. So like none of them have the heart as Steve, and that's why he's chosen.
Yeah, and I understand.
And it takes time for the audience to really see why he is special.
Yeah, but by that point we're like what 30, 40 minutes into the movie.
I don't know about that, but
it's later in the movie, right? And so I mean anyway.
So now we're into our
Infinity odds for the first Avengers movie,
and shocker, I won the first one. I know. Number one.
We'll put the questions up here somewhere.
Yeah.
And we'll tally up the results. Josh will do all that. We can.
So I have 1 point.
Yeah. And I'm coming back to this next week. We have
3 more questions for our upcoming movie, The Avengers.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Number 1. How much money did The Avengers make internationally on the first day of release? Over under 15 million.
Give me the over on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the over.
Give me the over on that number.
For sure.
The second one is how many lines does Hawkeye have in the Avengers movie? Over under 35.
You want to get down to 3 or?
Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Under.
Dang it. Oh shoot.
We're going under. And then third, how many minutes until the Hulk first appears? Not Bruce Banner, but the Hulk. Over under 45 minutes.
Okay, ready?
3, 2, 1. Under. All right.
We have the same.
We're locked in. So we said
We need to
over,
make this
under,
interesting,
and under.
though.
I know, but we'll see how it plays out.
I'm gonna go over. I'm
You're
gonna
gonna
go over for the last
Okay.
one. Just
So
to make things interesting.
I'm over, under.
To give you a shot. I'm gonna
Give
go
me
over.
okay, whatever.
I'm gonna
And
go
you're over, under. No, you're over, under.
Over, under.
And I'm over, under.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's it for us here at Tesseract Talk. Make sure you go subscribe on here, on Instagram, and Spotify as well. Everything else
That's
good?
about it, yeah.
We're good?
Make sure you tune back in 2 weeks to see our release and review of the Avengers movie.
It's a big one, so
a big
you better
one.
be there.
Better be there. And we'll see you then.
All right. Bye.